This is Jacob Terry with CxAlloy. I'm the Director of Product Development. And today we're going to be doing a demonstration of CxAlloy TQ, commissioning software that helps you to get in, get out, and get home. What we're going to be running through today as part of our demonstration is just 3 scenarios. So the first are relatively common that you find in commissioning projects, and this will touch on just a couple of pieces of functionality that CxAlloy TQ has. There's certainly more than these few scenarios that we'll be going through today, but I think these give you a good sense of the benefits, the time savings, the efficiency that you can gain with CxAlloy TQ. So the first one is we're going to look at recording nameplate data for VAVs. Second one is logging issues during a site visit. And the final one is generating a final report. With that, let's dive right in. What I've done prior to starting this today is created a sample project called Magnolia Center. And there's only a little bit of information currently in this project. There's some equipment. And I've already done this. I've created some equipment, VAVs specifically. Now, on a normal project, you'd have much more equipment than this, and you might be into the thousands or tens of thousands of equipment. And CxAlloy TQ is perfectly prepared to handle those projects. For the purposes of today's demonstration, I'm just going to have these VAVs. I brought these in with an import from an Excel file. We have a great import process. I didn't want to spend the valuable time for today's demo walking you through that, but it's very easy to use. And through one import of an Excel file, you not only create this equipment, but you actually can all the related content, such as the equipment types, the systems, and any related locations, which all happened automatically as part of the import of this spreadsheet. In addition, importing the spreadsheet brought in a number of attributes for our equipment, manufacturer and model number. So that's going to play a role here in a few moments. So this project already set up with some equipment. Otherwise, we're going to be creating all the content today during this demonstration. So we'll be creating the checklist and the field report and the final report all as part of the demonstration. You'll be able to see how fast and easy it is to do those things as we do them live during this demo. So let's start with our first scenario. You've got VAVs and you want to record some nameplate data for those. The way you're going to do that is through checklists. That's our recommended way to record nameplate data. We don't have any checklists created yet for this particular project, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Now, I've already set up a template for terminal unit. And in fact, CxAlloy TQ provides you with a set of default templates for common equipment for both checklist and test as part of any new account that you create. This particular terminal unit checklist is actually one of the default ones that the software provides for you. They're fully in your control, right? We provide those to you as a convenience, but once they're there, you're able to go in and delete them if you don't like them, or edit them and modify them to be whatever you want them to be. I'm going to use this terminal unit template as the basis to create my checklist. And the process for creating checklists is very easy. I click this Add New, and I'm going to first select the particular equipment that I want to create these checklists for. So I'm just going to pick just the first, I think it's 26 here, the VAV-1s. Now I could click Add All and add all of these. I think the total was 183, but I'm just going to stick with just these initial 26. Say OK. This is where I can pick which templates I want to apply. I can actually select multiple templates to create for a given set of equipment at this point. But in this case, I'm just going to pick this single terminal unit checklist, say OK. And at this point, I can give this a type and I can assign it. Perhaps I'm going to assign these to the mechanical contractor. I can also customize the name that's going to be shown. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and remove that value there and just have it be named with the name of each equipment. I'll say add, and it's going to go ahead and create those checklists. Now I'm only creating 26 checklists right here. You might be creating hundreds or thousands of checklists through this process, and it's going to work really great for that. So you can see already the time savings compared to, for example, duplicating Excel files or adding additional tabs or worksheets to your Excel files or those sort of approaches. Each one of these checklists is now ready to be filled out with the specific questions that were found in the template. The way our checklists work is they are a series of questions to be answered, and each checklist question can be answered with a yes, a no, or not applicable. In addition, you can leave a note, you can add issues or files to any line, and for certain lines, we have this concept of linked attributes. And I'd like to talk about that for a minute because it ties in directly with this situation where you're recording nameplate data. In our case, the spreadsheet that we imported already had some information for manufacturer and model number. So, and when I say spreadsheet, I mean the equipment spreadsheet that we imported already had some information for manufacturer and model number. In fact, I have the spreadsheet right here. So this is the spreadsheet I imported earlier, where you can see for each piece of equipment, it said what type and what discipline and what location, what space it belongs to, and so forth. And you can see there's a manufacturer and a model number column here. Now, not every piece of equipment has a model number value. That's okay, but most did. And then I think they all have a manufacturer value. Here, they're all manufactured by Train. When I brought this information in, it came in to each piece of equipment as attributes of the equipment, right down here. The way our software works, you can have as many attributes for your equipment as you'd like. These are just arbitrary values that you want to record. It doesn't have to be something that the CxAlloy team has thought of beforehand. You can actually add whatever custom values you want. We do provide a default list of common attributes available. I have a list of attributes that I can select from, but you actually can add your own custom attributes directly within the software. As part of the import, manufacturer model number were already possible attributes that I could add. And so the import picked those up and brought that information in. So each piece of equipment, if available, has this manufacturer and model number information. Now, like I said, not every piece of equipment that I imported actually had a model number. So if we look at VAV-1-14, for example, which we can just jump to right here, you'll see that only a manufacturer value came in for that. So we'll just take whatever is there in the spreadsheet. And if that information doesn't exist, no problem, we just move on. Now, the checklists are able to leverage that information. So within this checklist, this is now back to looking at VAV-1-1, we are asking for the manufacturer model number, serial number, and capacity. Two of those values already exist for the equipment that this checklist is linked to, the manufacturer and the model number, in which case the checklist actually prompts you to merely confirm those existing values. Before I move on, I actually want to switch over to looking at this checklist within our iOS app. I'm going to move over here to my iPad, and this is the CxAlloy TQ iOS app, which is built to work in the field, offline. You download a project to the device, and then you're able to interact with it without needing to have a live internet connection. You don't need to be on Wi-Fi or cellular or anything like that, because all of the data exists locally on the device. And then there's a syncing operation that when you go and connect back to an internet connection, will send that information back up to the server. So we're looking at that same checklist, but here in the context of the app. And you can see for these model verification steps of record manufacturer and model number and serial number, they are the same questions. But I want to show you what happens when you answer these. So if I tap on this line, I'm going to get the option to mark my answer. If I tap the yes, the check mark, what you'll see happen is it's going to prompt me to record that specific attribute value. And it's going to auto fill in any value that already exists. Now I can change that. If that's wrong, I could overwrite that. But if it's right, all I have to do is tap confirm, and that value is recorded. Same thing with model number. I can just tap the yes. It's going to prompt me. Now, maybe it's wrong, right? If it's wrong, I can go ahead and change it and say save. Now, the beauty of this approach is that obviously when I record this value in the checklist, it's recorded in the checklist. Of course, that's going to stay. But that information is also going to update the related piece of equipment. So it actually populates back to the related piece of equipment. And in fact, I can even see that directly here on the app. If I go ahead and I go into my equipment area and I look at the VAV-1, you'll see that under attributes, manufacturer model number, the model number now reflects that value that I just recorded in the checklist. This is really beneficial to have this feature we call linked attributes, where the checklist questions are connected directly to data that exists on the related piece of equipment. Now, let's say that the model number wasn't already pre-imported, like we were looking at our VAV-1-14. Let's go to that one. That's one where the model number wasn't part of our spreadsheet, if you recall. If I go to answer that one with a yes, there's no suggested value for the model number. So I'll have to put it in myself. I put in whatever it is and I hit save. And of course, it's going to record that value directly here in this checklist. Just like with the update of the model number on VAV-1-1, we can see that for VAV-1-14, it's actually going to create that attribute that didn't exist previously, right? So that model number value, as you recall, wasn't there initially. Now it's there because we recorded it in the context of the checklist. This is really beneficial in terms of the overall life cycle of your project, because what it means is at the end of the project, you can export your list of equipment, and all of this data that you recorded during the course of completing your checklist is going to be there as part of that equipment data. Just going to be additional columns of data in that equipment export in a super usable form that you can hand off to the building owner, operations team, to anyone else that might need that information at the conclusion of the project. And so you're really capturing more of the value of the work that went into filling out this checklist, because it's not just trapped inside each individual checklist. It's actually updating the related equipment with those verified in the field, up-to-date values. So let's go back to our checklist and talk about actually filling the rest of these out. One of the things that's really great in the iOS app that you can do is a feature that we call batch answer. And this is going to allow you to answer multiple checklists simultaneously without having to navigate in and out of each one. So in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and hit select, and I'm going to pick, we'll just do the first 6 you see on the screen. And you see down in the bottom left corner, it now prompts me to answer these. So I can tap answer, and up at the top on the right, you'll see it says batch answer. And so what I'm actually doing now is I'm going to be answering all 6 of these checklists at the same time. I can just hit this and say yes, and I've just marked yes for all 6 of those lines. And I can actually expand each line and see that information. And in fact, I can overwrite each of these individually, right? So maybe they're all yes, except for one of them needs to be a no. I can actually go in here and make that change on just that one after answering all of them with the yes. And I can do that for each of the questions that is being asked here. You can imagine how useful this is in terms of rapidly filling out multiple checklists simultaneously. One more thing that I want to note here about filling these out is the ability to scan a label out in the field with the camera in order to record these values. So let's say you have a serial number that you want to record. We all know what a pain it is to type in these long serial numbers. In CxAlloy TQ for iOS, you have the ability to use the camera on the device to scan the equipment tag label, the nameplate, and extract the text data directly from it. And to do that, I'm going to tap this label button up at the top right. And it's going to bring up this picture, and I can take a picture of a label and say use photo, and it's going to think for a minute, and it's going to detect all the text that it finds in this particular label. I can then just tap on any of the areas that it found. For example, I can zoom in here and I can tap right there, and it's going to just drop that text in. I didn't have to type anything. I hit save, and it records that value. Now, when you have a multiple questions in a row that are asking for information found on the nameplate, you'll be happy to know you do not have to take a photo each time. So for example, if I go to this next one and go to mark yes, I can tap the label, and that same photo that I already took comes up, and I can select another piece of data from the same scanned label. So it becomes very quick after a single scan of a label to fill out all of the information that the checklist may be asking for on that particular label. And of course, once you have filled out these checklists and you get back to an internet connection, or maybe you've been on internet the whole time, either way, it's going to sync this information up, and you're going to find that it is then available directly on the website. So in fact, if I come back here to my VAV 1-1 and reload, you'll see that the information that we recorded is reflected here, and all of that has been synced up. In fact, it's even recording who answered it and when. I can open these lines up and see that I marked the answer and when I did it, and when these specific manufacturer model number attributes were recorded as well. So all of that information is now here available for everyone else to see once that sync has completed. Okay, let's move on to the second scenario, logging issues that you've identified during a site visit. So in order to do that, we're going to go under reports and to field observations. We don't have any yet, so we'll go ahead and click add new. And maybe this is my first site visit, so I'll say site visit number 1 and give it the date. It's a commissioning site visit. I can fill out this additional information. I was there, and say add. In CxAlloy TQ, a field observation is meant to be the report that captures all of the relevant information for a site visit. So on the course of a single site visit, you might identify 20 issues and have 3 comments that you want to make. You would include all of those as part of a single field observation with the date of the time you were out there. And obviously up to you if you want to have the field observation reflect a longer period of time. Maybe you were out there a few days, you certainly could do that. Or if you wanted to create a separate field observation for each day, that's going to be in your control. Let's say while I'm on site, I identified a few issues. We're going to go ahead and click add issue. And I actually have a photo here. Now, if I was using the app, I'd actually be able to bring up the camera and just take a photo right there live as part of creating this field report. On the web, I'm going to select it from my computer, and I have a photo here that I want to select. There's an issue I saw where the pipes were starting to sag. So I'm going to go ahead and say, sagging pipes need additional support. And I think this is, it's moderate priority. I'm going to assign this to the mechanical contractor, the asset that this relates to. In this particular scenario, maybe the most appropriate choice would be a room. You might have a specific piece of equipment. That's a very common scenario for issues, is to tie them to a specific piece of equipment. But you also can have issues tied to an overall system, or to a type of equipment, or to a specific location. So in this case, let's say it's in room 1016. So I'm going to pick a specific location as the asset. We'll actually say that this is a plumbing issue. So maybe I'll change this over here to the plumbing contractor now that I think about it. And we'll go ahead and save and close. Now, I may want to call a little bit more attention to this. And what I can do is I can open it up and see the file I attached, the photo is right here. I'm going to actually open this photo up and draw a little bit more attention to the problem. I'm going to do that through the annotation tools that we make available. So I'm going to go ahead and select this box, and I'm going to draw this box right here. This is the area that I'm concerned about, and that's it. I'm going to hit X. You see the photo here updates. And now when I print this report, this particular area is actually going to be called out this way with that markup that I've done on it. Now I'm going to go ahead and add one more issue. This time there is a situation where I noticed some rust marks that I think are an indication of some leaks. A leak issue, right? This one is low priority, but worth noting. Again, I'm going to assign it to the mechanical contractor. Again, this is maybe a better candidate for a location. We'll say this is in 3057, and we'll say it's a mechanical issue. And go ahead and save and close. Again, I could do the same thing here. I think it's pretty obvious in this particular photo, but if I wanted to, I could call this out by drawing a circle or a box around it. Now, in addition to issues, when you're doing a field report, you may also want to just be noting some things that aren't issues. They're nothing that needs to be resolved, but they are part of the observations that you're making while you're on site. And the right place to record those are as comments. So I'm going to open up this comments area. I'm going to hit add comment, and maybe I'm just going to take a picture of the ducting here and say, ducting is looking great, right? Good place to put some positive commentary. Now, what you might want to do for this type of comments, this is going to be places where, again, positive comments, photos of just general site progress, particulars of a conversation that you had with the GC, whatever you feel is appropriate. Issues obviously get tracked to completion. They have a status. They generally represent some sort of problem or deficiency and go to an overall issues log. Comments, on the other hand, just live with the report, right? There's not an overall comments log that these need to be tracked to completion or anything like that. These are just part of the report. Now, the last thing that you generally want to do when working on a field report is to publish it. You may have noticed that it says draft up here and down here. This is great because this allows you to make some corrections or do a little bit of research before the issues you identified in this report become visible to all the other participants on the CxAlloy TQ project. While this report's a draft, other folks aren't going to be able to come in and see it, and the issues aren't going to show up in the issues log and so forth. It's also great if you've got maybe junior employees, new hires, interns, any sort of scenario like that where you want to have someone else review that work before it goes out to everyone. You can make sure they keep it a draft while they work on it, and then have someone more senior come in, review the content, make edits as necessary, and then choose to publish it. Regardless, when you're ready, you're going to click publish. That's going to give the report a number and give the issues the numbers. Email notifications will be going out to the plumbing contractor, mechanical contractor, whoever's set up in this particular project in those roles. They'll get notifications about these issues existing and being assigned to them. And of course, they are now part of the overall construction issues log, which aggregates all issues found across the project. These particular issues were found through a field observation report, but you're also going to have issues that come from checklists, tests, from meetings, from design and construction reviews, submittal reviews, all that type of stuff. Generally, there's one more step when it comes to a field report, and that's going to be communicating those findings out. There's a couple of different ways you could do it. CxAlloy TQ is a collaborative platform. It's designed to allow all the different project participants to log in, contribute. So for example, on the pricing model, we don't charge per user to make sure that there's as little friction as possible to inviting people in, because if you want someone to participate in the project and you think there'll be value in them having access to what you're doing in CxAlloy TQ, we want you to have no roadblock to inviting them in and having them participate. That helps things move quicker. In addition, we have, like I just mentioned, this draft approach. We have full audit trails that happen of any action is recorded. So I can come down here and actually see the full history of all the activity that's happened on this field observation. So there's a transparency about who's doing what. And then there's detailed permissions that allow you to grant access project by project and then section by section within that project. So you can give someone access to the construction issues, but not to the design issues. And you can control what level of access they have. Are they able to just respond to issues? Are they able to create their own issues? Are they able to modify or edit existing issues? You have all of those controls available to you. So in a scenario where everyone is logging into the software, they're comfortable with using it, you may choose to just email a link to this field observation to whoever the appropriate recipients are. And you can select here, to send to everyone in the company or to send everyone in a particular role. Maybe you want to send this to the GC, and you can write your own custom message here and shoot that email out, and they will get that link to click. Alternatively, a lot of times you want to send that email separately with an attached file, or you're even going to print it out and bring it on site or to a kickoff meeting or a construction meeting that you're having. In that case, there's the PDF option. In fact, reporting is a key strength of CxAlloy TQ, and most any page you're going to go to is going to have the ability to generate a beautiful PDF of that content, along with the option to control the specifics of what is included. In this case, I think the options we have selected there are pretty much what we want. So we'll go ahead and click PDF, and you can see it generates this very nice PDF. We've got our title up here. We have a custom logo that we were able to upload, our report information. Here's our comments with the associated photo, and here's our 2 issues that we've identified. Again, these have the associated photos, and like I was noting before, the annotations that we drew on them are present right there as well. So it's very easy to see what we're talking about. I can, of course, print this out, or again, it's just a PDF, so I can just download it to my computer and attach this to any emails that I want to send. For the final scenario, let's talk about the final report. So I just mentioned how good the reporting is in CxAlloy TQ, and they have very nice, beautiful reports with a number of different formatting options available to you. That carries through to the report generator, which allows you to actually create a custom report that combines those nice individual reports from across the project into one unified PDF that you configure and set up to your liking, and the system builds for you. So let's go ahead and do that. You can have multiple report configurations. So what we're going to do is we're going to create one configuration right now. We'll call this commissioning final report. Within a report, you then add the sections of content that you want that report to have. Right now, this project, we only have a few pieces of data in it. So what we're going to do is we're going to just add those few things that we have. First of all, we have our equipment. So we're actually going to add our equipment data sheets. Now, any section that you add is going to have a variety of options available for what needs to be included in the report and how it should be presented. So right now, including the equipment, I'm sorting by name, but maybe I'd rather sort by discipline. I can apply all sorts of filters in terms of what's actually in the end included. We're just going to include everything. And then in terms of each individual report, I can either go for an overall list, like a table of this data, or I can print the detail and include all associated content or whatever set of associated content I want to. You can actually add the same section multiple times. So in this case, I'm actually going to add equipment twice. I'm going to add it once, the detail, and then once as a list, so that prior to seeing all these detailed reports about each piece of equipment, there's a summary list. And you'll see when we run this that it actually generates links for you as part of that setup. So we have our equipment. We want to add our checklist as well. So we'll go ahead and add our checklist. And I think I just want to sort all my stuff by discipline. I don't think we have too many disciplines because everything tends to fall under one discipline here, but I think that's a common scenario, and I want to show you what that looks like. So we'll include some options there, save. I'm going to go ahead and again, add this twice so that we actually also have that list view up front prior to seeing all the individual checklists. So I'll switch this over to the list and say, okay. And I'm going to add that above. But you can just drag these around. In fact, I think I want to have my equipment at the end. So I'm going to have my checklist, my equipment. I'm going to add one more section of content that we actually created here, and that's my construction issues log. So I'm going to go ahead and add my construction issues log. I'm going to sort those by date identified, sure. And I want to include most of this information here. Say, okay. And I'm going to move that one up because I want that to be first. Now, this could be pretty nice, but there's a couple extra things I want to do here. One is I've got a executive summary that I want to add to it. Second is there's some external report, in this case, some meeting minutes that I think I want to include as part of this final report. And then I want to have a title page. And I'd also like to have a table of contents. So let's go and look at those. For the executive summary and for the meeting minutes, the way we're going to handle that is by actually first uploading them into the overall project. So I'm going to go over to project files and click add new, and I'm going to go ahead and add my executive summary, and that's going to now be right there. I also have some meeting minutes. So I'm going to create a new folder called meeting minutes. Realistically, in a real project, this would be happening during the course of the project and already all kind of exists most likely at the time you were generating your final report. But I'm going to go ahead and add files to this. In this case, I have some meeting minutes files that I'm going to go ahead and add. Say okay, and there those are, great. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to my report generator setup. And now I can add a file section, first of all, so I can take any file that's been uploaded to the project and include it as part of one of the sections of the report that I generate. In this case, I'm going to pick my executive summary. I actually want this to be very high quality in terms of how it appears in the final report, and I want it to take up the full page. And I'll say okay. Again, that comes up right at the top. I'm also then going to add my folder. And in this case, I'm going to pick my meeting minutes folder. For the meeting minutes, I don't need them to be super high quality, and I'm going to go and have them actually fit within the context of the document. So I'm going to stay with that default option there. And I'm going to keep that down here at the bottom. Last thing we're going to do is add a title page and a table of contents. So I'm going to add my title page, and I'm going to give it, final commissioning report. For subtitle, I'll maybe say the project name and move that to the top. And then one more, and that's the table of contents. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the table of contents, and I can choose sort of the level of detail that I want. I want it to be really detailed. So I'm going to make it really detailed. Because it's so detailed, there'll be a lot of entries. So I actually wanted this to spread this across 3 columns. And I'll say save. And again, I'll move this up right underneath the custom title page. Okay, then I'm going to click run report. In this particular case, it's not going to take that long to run this report, just less than a minute. Some reports, if you're dealing with a very, very large project that's tens of thousands, can take longer, as it says there. The thing to know is this can handle any size report. We have generated absurdly large reports through this system because that's what the client wanted, right? I'm talking 70,000 page plus reports. And if that's what you need, if that's what the project calls for, the software is going to do it. This product has been battle tested on some of the largest projects in the entire world, have been run through CxAlloy TQ, and it has handled it without issue. So you can be confident that whatever the project is that you're tackling, that CxAlloy TQ is going to be able to handle it just fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click this to download it, and we'll go ahead and open this up, and we'll take a look at what this looks like. So here's the final commissioning report that we just generated from the system. See our custom title page. We move on. Here's our table of contents. Again, I wanted a really detailed table of contents, and then I had it spread over 3 columns so that it didn't take up too many pages. Not only is this got page numbers and everything, so if you print this out, it's actually a useful table of contents, but it's also in digital form incredibly useful because all of these are clickable links. So I can just jump to any page just by clicking that table of contents entry. We have our executive summary. Again, this is an external document that was uploaded to the project and then included back out in the report. And then we get into all our individual areas of content, our construction issues log, our checklist. Again, here's our list of checklists, followed by the individual details of each checklist. Now, one thing is the list of checklists actually serves as a table of contents of sort itself, because each of these becomes a link. And in fact, one of the things to know about how CxAlloy TQ reporting works is that it automatically creates internal links within the document if it can do so. So for example, when I'm looking at a checklist, it tells me that this checklist is connected to a specific piece of equipment. This is actually an internal PDF link that I can click and will take me directly to that equipment data sheet in this same PDF. And I can likewise go back. So when I'm looking at an equipment and it lists all the related checklists, I can just quickly jump to those if it exists in the same PDF. The meeting minutes, again, are included. In this case, we chose to fit within the existing header and footer of the report. so you get that continuity of presentation. And then the last thing is to note the detailed bookmarks that are created over here as part of the PDF setup. These are also created automatically for you. There's up to 3 levels of bookmarks that the report will have. In my case, because I sorted by discipline, there's that intermediary discipline bookmark, and then there's a bookmark for each individual equipment report within it. So you can imagine the difference between creating this report, which in total is several hundred pages, and we did this in a matter of a few minutes, compared to processes you might be familiar with, like compiling Word documents or printing a bunch of Excel files to PDF and then manually combining them, merging them through Adobe Acrobat. All of that goes away because all of the information is already in CxAlloy TQ. You simply configure it in the way that you'd like it to come out, click Run Report, and it's going to generate it for you with no additional effort from you. And the end result is actually going to be better than you probably were getting from that manual process, in that automatic table of contents, automatic bookmarks, and even those internal links to make it easy to jump around from page to page within the report. That's the last thing we wanted to show. I think it's clear, if you look at the efficiencies that CxAlloy TQ delivers, that the software absolutely is going to help you to get in, get out, and get home. That's what we're striving towards every day. I hope you were able to see it in this demo. Thank you for your time, and hope to be talking to you soon.